Cool. Looks like we are live.
We are live.
We'll give people a couple seconds to join in on the live stream. I'm going to go check out YouTube to make sure everything is rocking and rolling there.
Oh, yeah.
Today, Islam.
It is very late, but I'm conquering the office on my own here. Very peaceful.
We are live. All right.
All right.
Give people a couple seconds to join in on the live stream. Oh, do you have that playing on your side too?
I can hear all that. Wow, I can hear all that.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get started, man. We got 6 people on the channel. More will join, and they can watch this later as well. But hey, everybody, welcome to the second Serverless Office Hours, where we bring you the latest and greatest serverless news, updates with the framework, and give you FaceTime with core members of the team. I'm David Wells. I do a lot of things at Serverless, development stuff, marketing stuff. I'm a developer evangelist of sorts. And we also have Islam on the call. Islam, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the folks what you do.
I'm Islam Hifni. I'm a core developer at Serverless, focusing on the framework since its inception, basically since it was called JAWS. And I'm here to answer all your questions about the framework, so shoot them away. We're all here.
Before we jump into the questions, there was just so many announcements that came out of reInvent. We have a follow-up post on our blog that basically Lambda Christmas came early, where they released a ton of amazing things. I have no idea how they're cranking out all this amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go through those right now. So one of the first things that they announced was the distributed stack tracing, their product called XRay.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is pretty cool, where basically you can see where your, like, what's triggering what function and all the different resources in your kind of stack. Islam, you have any thoughts on like XRay and kind of the doors that it opens up?
Yeah, this is something like I personally, and I think a lot of us have been waiting for a while, because there's really no way to monitor microservices in general currently. You can have like each single like function have its own monitoring or own software to monitor, but you can't really know what's happening at the big picture. So I love that they introduced that, and I'm not sure if does it support Lambda. I don't remember if it supports Lambda or is it just about microservices in general. I think I remember reading that its support for Lambda is coming.
Yeah. Sure. I think it's in preview right now, but yeah, it's coming soon.
It's definitely
from the demos I've seen, it looks pretty awesome. And this was the one missing piece for me as well. Like once you have all these tiny little functions all over the place, like how do they connect? Where are issues happening, etc. And we were hearing that all the time as like the major pain point, right? Of like, okay, I get functions as a service, but how do I know what's happening, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about what's happening inside the function. It seems to be also like tracing the request across all the functions, so we can see how the entire request fly around your entire application, like how long it takes in this function and how long it takes to invoke this function. If they could provide all of that, this would be really awesome. Like I can't wait to try it out and play around with it with Lambda, but this is pretty cool. One of the cool stuff that they introduced.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, moving on, because there's like 27 things.
Wow.
So they introduced C# and .NET support, which is cool if you're writing those languages. We know that JavaScript rules the world, so you know. Yeah. I'm a big JavaScript nerd, but whatever tickles your fancy, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
By the way, we're currently there is a BR open right now to have this C# support in the framework. So this is coming very soon. Okay,
cool, awesome.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know. Yeah, we're talking about like other language support. Yeah, it's something we definitely want to do. Yeah. Cool. So moving on, they also announced a service called Dead Letter Queues, or DLQ. Where basically it will send all of your unprocessed events to automatically to an SQS queue or an SNS topic. I guess for retry logic and what have you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it looks pretty cool. Let's see, another big one. So they announced a thing called SAM, this serverless application model. Yeah, and so we saw this and we said, it looks pretty familiar, Amazon.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it does look cool, and I like where they're going with that. So we actually have, we're talking about how we might be able to support that with the framework.
Yeah.
There's an open issue on GitHub if you guys are interested in chiming in on that. Let's see if I can send out the link in chat. I'll send that out in a second. But yeah, basically, there's an open issue. Let us know your thoughts. If you're thinking about supporting SAML or kind of going that direction, we're doing a lot of internal discussions about it and on the in the open in GitHub. So
yeah,
let us know your thoughts.
Let me add to that a little bit, because actually today I've been spent a lot of hours thinking about this, how this could work, and would really love our users' feedback on this. And the main reason why we want to support SAM in particular is that it will reduce the CloudFormation template significantly, and want to get that as soon as possible. But for our users, we feel that our own syntax it still sits as an upper layer on top of SAM after all. So our users won't really feel SAM syntax per se. So we would love to get on feedback on how valuable that is to you, whether you'd be expecting to see SAM to be the ultimate CloudFormation template that you can deploy at the end. And and we're thinking on another direction as well to actually support SAM completely with their own syntax, where you can just take the SAM template itself and deploy it with the serverless without having to change it to the serverless syntax. These are all just rough ideas. We still haven't decided which direction we'll go, but just wanted to put it out there and see if you guys would be interested in something like that.
Yeah. It's we definitely want to hear your feedback. One of the things that we're really striving to do is multi-provider support. So we're really interested to see how even the broader ecosystem adopts this standard, if you will. But so stay tuned and chime in. Let us know your thoughts for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So moving on, another awesome thing that they kind of announced very similarly is Code Pipeline. I guess this has been out for a while, but it looks like it's getting more and more sophisticated. Kind of like basically a multi-step CI/CD build system. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's actually while it itself is not really related to the serverless ecosystem as a whole, but when they talked about it at the conference, I remember they just talked about it in the context of SAM, because with SAM you just have the templates, but you wouldn't really know what to do with it. But as long as you combine it with the code pipeline, code build, all of that, they work all together to give you this experience. And I'm very curious to see how our users would use that and how comfortable they would be with it. I'd definitely love to play with it at one time, but it's a great addition. We'll see.
Yeah, because I know, a lot of people are doing CI/CD stuff with serverless right now with existing systems. I know John C. McKim from A Cloud Guru, he has a serverless Yeoman generator where it has the CD stuff built in. I think they're using Travis. I can't remember exactly. I'm sure he'll tweet and remind us. But so check that out. Okay, so moving on, tons more to cover. So a new event trigger, right? So Amazon Aurora SQL event triggers.
Yeah, that adds it to the list. There's a lot of events for Lambda, more are coming up, and we try to support as much as possible based on users' demand. So I was thinking about this today as well, and if this is something that you guys think is important, we could definitely put it in the framework ASAP. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. So another new event that they announced is like S3 per object triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of so I watched the the keynote from Tim Wagner on like all these cool things, but yeah, he was saying one of the cool use cases might be like now you can actually trigger a Lambda event based off a Git request to an object. So if someone's like downloading a PDF, you could trigger like an email to your sales team like they downloaded the collateral.
That is cool.
That was one thing that I thought of for my marketing.
That is cool.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what people do with that. Let's see. Another thing they announced was an API gateway pass-through mode, which I guess allows easier usage of bigger web frameworks. I'm not too familiar with that yet. Haven't played around with it. Have you seen anything on that?
Yeah. I think the plan that they have is they wanted users to be able to use frameworks like Express without getting in their way, and they haven't changed a lot of code. So I think what this just does is that it passes through the HTTP request as it is, and it could be processed as it is. Still haven't tried it out, but that looks cool.
Nice. Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on. So they announced this like mobile hub of enterprise connectors, which is really interesting. It's all these third-party services that you can now connect to like directly through AWS. I don't know how many are in there right now, but I'm sure that'll grow. So it kind of plays along with the whole like serverless mantra of like you're shipping like tiny little functions, but you don't have to ship everything yourself. Your core competencies you should be building, but offloading things like authentication or like sending emails or whatever, like there's third-party services that are going to do it way better than you can manage yourself. So it's really interesting to see them introduce that as well.
This is pretty nice.
Yeah. Okay, and this one, the next one is my like favorite. When I saw this, I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And that is step functions.
Oh yeah.
Step functions. Basically, you can define your logic, run things in parallel. It gives you this nice like GUI interface to see how that flow actually works. Gives you retry logic. Man, it's kind of to me, it's kind of a way to glue together again all these disparate functions and just visualize that.
But when you say visualize it, do you mean like it's some sort of a graphical interface? We could just
So I mean, they actually so you write it. This is another open source spec that they created. We'll toss some links in the show notes. But basically, you define your flow with this syntax, and then inside of the AWS console, it will show you like the actual like, okay, this function's here, this function's here, this function's here, and like how it actually flows through, and if there's any problems with any of those, and it gives you like the log output at the bottom.
That's cool.
Pretty interesting. It is a little bit more expensive than just running,
that's what I thought.
yourself. So I don't know. I'd be interested to hear the community's thoughts on this as well. Like what they think about step functions and where they see that going.
What I would love to see in that, I'm not sure if they already have that feature or not, is that if you could actually define this workflow visually to like, I know you mentioned that you can just write some sort of a syntax, but if you could actually drag and drop sort of your function to see, you want these functions to come first, and then after that this function comes, that would be pretty cool. It's like the Photoshop for serverless applications. Like you're building the entire application, their entire architecture visually. I'm not sure if they have it on the roadmap. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. A drag and drop, like here's my architecture. Yes. Awesome. Okay, so another thing, and this, I guess they announced this a little bit before reInvent, but it's super cool, worth mentioning, and that was binary support for API Gateway. And that's something we, yeah. So we have that in the framework as well, correct?
Yeah, we do have it. We do have it, but we struggled a little bit to understand it for a while. But we finally got it in. So you can now just have your own binary HTTP requests right away in the framework. It's pretty cool. We've been waiting that for a while. Yeah.
I was curious on like the use cases from the community, like what people want to use this for. I was, when I first heard about it, I'm like, okay, why would you want that? Dynamic image generation is like on demand would be like rather slow, and you'd have some pretty long running Lambda functions. But yeah, so I'm curious to hear what kind of use cases. I did see one that was interesting, and that was dynamically generating PDFs. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not really sure. Well, just like you mentioned, why would you generate out of Lambda rather than have it managed in S3, for example? Like, I'm guessing most of people do that. But what you can do with Lambda before this binary support is that you can return HTML, for example, which is just text. So this is pretty nice. So now with binary support, you can also return like binary data, like blobs or what have you. But yeah, like I totally agree. Like, not really sure of the use case if they don't use a service like S3. I'd love to know about that as well.
Right. Yeah. And just a quick aside, we have been ramping up all of the serverless like kind of use case examples in our GitHub repo, github.com/serverless/examples. So if you do have like use case examples or projects you want to showcase, by all means, submit a pull request. And I'm going to mention this later on in the show as well and show you guys that repo. But yeah.
Yes, please do.
Cool. So, all right. So moving on, Amazon Lex. I haven't seen too much about this, but it's apparently a service for easily building chatbots.
Yeah. God, I've been waiting for this one for so long because I don't have an Echo. It's so hard for me to get an Echo here because like I don't live in the States, and other than shipping, I don't think it works abroad. But I've always wanted one just for the sake of playing with it. And I've always thought, wouldn't it be cool like if we could just use Alexa as in the service itself? Because this is what's important, right? If you could just hook up their voice recognition software into your website, for example. Imagine you're having some sort of a customer support software on your website. You click on that button, like you say that you're having a certain problem, it could respond right away. That would be cool. I hope this is achieved by Alexa at this point, but this is why I've been waiting for it, and I really want to try it. Like, I really want to try it. And another side note is that we actually have a PR open. Not sure if it's merged or not for supporting Alexa event sources. So this should make things easier. I hope so. So if you guys think this is important, please like thumbs up, hearts, whatever. But we'll definitely get this in for the next release.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one of the things. Everything in the community, like we're driven by you guys, and whatever features are most important, we're actually playing around with the idea of building kind of this like voting mechanism, like so people can upvote specific features that they might want. But yeah, definitely, tweet at us, tweet at me, tweet at Islam, like just let us know because we love that feedback.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so moving on, let's see, just a couple more things. So I guess there is a new event for Kinesis Firehose, where now you can use, like, in between putting that into like cold storage, you can run it through a Lambda transform, which is interesting. Let's see, Snowball Edge. So this was cool. This was like an on-premise Lambda solution. More, I guess, targeted towards the enterprise crowd, but I'm interested to see where that goes. And let's see. We have Snowball. I just said that one. Green Grass. So Green Grass is, I don't know why it's called that, but it's
they have like incredible naming.
Kind of like, running Lambda in embedded devices. So like, you can put your Lambda function in, an IoT device. It can run those Lambda functions, even without like an internet connection, and then once it like regains a connection, like sync back up with the cloud.
Yeah, this one I would love to see what developers will make out of that. Having Lambda within your own devices, this is powerful. I'm super excited to see what's gonna happen with this one.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last thing that I saw that I thought was super interesting was Lambda at Edge, which is, I guess it makes sense. The name is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to say and looks a little weird, but it's awesome. So basically, it's introducing like super low latency Lambda, basically response times, because they're putting basically. You're able to the Lambdas respond at a closer point of, I can't remember, it's a pop center, I can't remember what that acronym stands for. Point of whatever. So we're seeing basically what that means for everybody out there is like we're seeing like this all these cold start times, all this like higher latency stuff that people have been saying like, oh, well, I'm not really sure if Lambda's right because of this.
Yeah.
We're seeing that drop, and that's amazing. And this is going to open the floodgates, I think, for everybody else to jump on the serverless.
Yeah,
so. Yeah,
for sure. This cold start times has been my biggest issue, but I've been patient with it. And with this new feature, they're basically combining Lambda with say like CloudFront, basically just on all the edges of CloudFront. And it's pretty nice. Like, I hope that it's a significant change in cold start time, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I hope it's not a big latency, or I hope it will make a big difference overall.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So that was like the recap. So many things. Check out the blog post on the serverless.com/blog. Where we have a write-up that goes into detail on a lot of these things. But let's switch gears. All right, we've been talking about Amazon. Let's talk about ourselves, okay? Let's give ourselves some love. We're going to run through just some of the updates in the framework since our last office hours, just so people are aware of some of the new functionality. And then we'll dive into some of your questions. But cool. So from version 1.2, we basically added environment variable support.
Yes.
Yes. You want to talk about that?
This is awesome. Like, for so long, we've been waiting for that one, and everybody have. And actually, like early on in JAWS, I think version 5.6, 0.5 and 6, we had environment variable support, but it was sort of hacky. It wasn't really supported by AWS. What we had is just you put it in a .env file, and we push it with your code, and then you have access to it. It was sort of hacky and wasn't super easy across languages. But now they have it built in with AWS, and it's so easy to just push all these environment variables. And the best part is that you could use it with serverless variables. So you'll be able to dynamically create environment variables that works like in certain situations. This is pretty nice. Like, you should definitely check that out. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. We have that in the docs under the serverless variables section. I think we have an example of that. Yeah. Also, in the new examples repo, we have an example of how to use environment variables. I think Nick Graff, one of our rockstar devs, he also made, I think he made an encrypted version as well using KMS.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And it's an example as well, I think, in the examples repo.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other thing, so we added support for JavaScript powered variables.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on this one?
Yeah, this is a lot related to actually environment variables because it gives it even more superpowers. It's an idea that we had is that not only that you can reference serverless variables from, say, the environment or options or other files, but what if you want to create dynamic variables? So we thought, okay, what if we had a certain file with actual JavaScript logic that returns these variables based on certain conditions, what have you. So this is exactly what we did. So you can, in your service, you can just create whatever you call serverless variables.js. This would contain a JavaScript logic that would dynamically just process serverless variables, and at the end it just returns an object. And then in your serverless.yml, you could just reference that file in the same syntax, just like you're referencing other files, and you'll be able to dynamically retrieve these variables. It's really cool, really powerful, really dynamic, and so we're super excited about this one. Really awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. All right, cool. So that was 1.2. We also had 1.3 ship. I believe it was last week. We had additional metric support. So let's talk about the metric support. So this is serverless metrics.
Yeah, and this is function-specific metrics, to be exact. So you can have like very, very basic metrics about your functions, like in the invocations, like throttles, all of that on a per function basis, and which is pretty useful, like in case you want to know what's going on with each of your functions. So we rolled that 1.3, and we're waiting feedback. So far, it's working great, and let us know how this works for you, and if there are any other improvements that you'd like to see. Because we've discussed for a while whether we should put these metrics in the info plugin or not, but I don't think that made it in the framework yet. So we'd love to hear your feedback on this one.
Cool. The next thing was easier AWS credential setup. So this is one that I was like, I wanted so bad for so long.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so I mean, right when I first started like with the framework, this was like 8-9 months ago. It was just like, it was so painful to figure out. This was me being like relatively newer to AWS, like how to actually set up those credentials on my machine. It just took longer than it needed to. Probably partly my fault, but also it's kind of a painful process.
Yeah.
So I wanted a way to basically like make it easier for people that are new, because I would argue a lot of people out there, they might just be getting started with AWS, and I think they could really benefit from using something like our framework. So super stoked on this one. This is the it's serverless space config space credentials, and we designed it this way also for like if anybody else has like plugins or other things that they want to configure. Or if you're creating a plugin and it has configuration options, you could basically extend that config command. So, when a user of the CLI wants to do something and they want to configure something, SLS configure will list out all the different configuration options they have, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I think it'll be nice.
Yeah, especially for newcomers. And I think we have a lot of our users, they are not really familiar with AWS. They're just getting started with the serverless trend out there. And they're starting with the framework, and they're really not sure how to get started with AWS. We needed that for a long time. We've been sort of in denial that we didn't have that, but then I'm glad we finally put it in. So it's awesome.
Indeed. Cool. So, and then the last thing was Lambda versioning on each deployment.
Yeah. This one, because again, in version 0.5, we used to support versioning and aliases, but we dropped that during the switch. And we've heard from our community that there are some interesting use cases for versioning after all, because in version 1, whenever we deploy by CloudFormation, and you can basically version your entire service via CloudFormation, not just Lambda. So we didn't really feel the need for it, but within our community, we thought that there might still be a need for Lambda versioning. So what's happening right now is that whenever you deploy a function, a new version is published. It's just in the form of a Lambda version CloudFormation template. you won't really see any difference whatsoever unless you actually go to the console. You'll be able to roll back to all your previous versions and so on. But we think that users should be aware of this eventually. So keep it in mind. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so those are the quick updates. Let's jump into some questions from the community out there. All right, so Ryan Scott Brown, awesome dude. We did a podcast with IBM a couple weeks back. Hey, Ryan. Ryan asks, are there plans to... Yeah, this is like one of the... Ryan asks. All right. Are there plans to use code build to make Lambda deploy artifacts instead of local builds on dev machines?
Oh, well, that is a tough one. We haven't explicitly talked about it internally, and of course it all depends on what the users needs, and we'd love to get feedback on that. But generally speaking, I think one of our big strengths is that our strong support for local builds, and that makes things a lot faster, and that's what we're doing right now. If we want to support code build, I think it will be optional, but I don't think it will be the default behavior of the framework. So I guess it depends on the community. If the community wants that, we can figure out a way to support it somehow, but it'll probably, in my own opinion, it will probably be optional. That's why, yeah.
All right, next question from Andres Santabanez. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. I don't know how to read. I'll tell my teammates here. Okay, so Andres writes, just hit the CloudFormation 200 resource limit while deploying. Are there any workarounds for this issue? Thanks.
Yeah, we've been aware of this limitation for a while, and this is one of the reasons why we were sort of hesitant to deploy with CloudFormation at first. But I think there are some ways to fix it, and we're currently thinking about those. One of them is actually related to the newly announced SAM specification. What we're thinking is that we want to support SAM in a way that whenever we compile your serverless.yaml into actual CloudFormation, it will be compiled into SAM specification, and that will reduce the template size significantly. And I think this will help users build bigger services in general. There are other solutions like nested stacks and things like that. We still haven't dig deep into those, but we might this could be a valid solution. Just trying to figure out what we're gonna do about SAM first. But generally speaking, what we've always thought is that or at least what I've always thought is that if you hit that limit, then this is probably a hint that your service could be too big, and that your own project it should be composed of smaller microservices. Just my own thought. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but we're definitely trying to make that better, especially with the proposal of SAM.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. I'm trying to get to our video to see if there's any live chats questions as well. This is where you get into the danger zone.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so yeah, no questions, but Dan Stringfellow mentioned that POP stands for Points of Presence.
Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna get you on this show. That would be interesting. Yeah. Let us know if community members would like to come on office hours and chat with us. There's tons and tons of smart people in this ecosystem. That we'd love to have you guys on. Cool. So let's see. Another question that came in. What was the most exciting? This is it to you, Islam. What was the most exciting thing that you saw at reInvent? What are you most jazzed about?
Lex, for sure. AWS Lex, and the selling or supporting API gateway in the marketplace, because the marketplace is something I've thought about for a while. I've always wanted to be able to, because it's so easy. It's so easy to write lambdas and deploy your functions and scale indefinitely. And I really wanted a way to make money out of that. It's very selfish, but still. And it never really found a way. And I thought about maybe some sort of a solution. I even went so far. I thought about some sort of a per request payments with Bitcoin, super over engineering, because I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. But I never had a chance to actually work on that project. But now that they have it in the marketplace, it's official. You can now officially sell your API endpoints into the marketplace. And as a side note, of course, they don't have to be powered by Lambda. They could just be powered by ES2. But I would argue that it's probably easier to be powered by Lambda. And so I think this will be super great for a lot of developers. And for me, I've been looking for that one for a while. Yeah. So I'll try to make some money. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, what do you mean? We're not paying you enough? What are you talking about? What's going on here?
Okay.
I'm interested to see all the different business models that come out of that. I think it is pretty interesting. AWS is it's a huge chunk of the infrastructure market, by far the leader. So, people offering their APIs through that might be interesting. See what happens.
Yeah.
Cool. So the next question comes from Christian Alexander, Chris at DevOps on Twitter. Christian writes, playing around with the Go Serverless tools. By the way, that's our Twitter handle if you're not familiar. At Serverless is a guy right now that doesn't tweet. So if you know that guy, ask him if we can get that. But anyway, so he says, been playing around with the tools for a while. I'm impressed with what you got so far. What's the new platform all about? And that's a good question. And to answer your question, we can't answer your question right now. We're still working on a lot of different ideas. And this is all driven from the community feedback. We're not ready to announce anything right now, but that is a good segue into some of our announcements and some of the projects we've been working on. So let me go ahead and flip over and share my screen real quick. Let's see, how do I do this? This is the problem with live television.
Oh yeah. Make sure you disable.
You can call this TV.
Yeah.
I always knew I'd be a TV star. All right. For a developer company. All right. Share my entire screen. Whoa! Inception. Okay.
Oh wow.
Cool. So there are the show notes for everybody interested. So one of the things that we wanted to basically let people know that it's a thing and it's happening, and this is something that I'm personally working on, is the Serverless Dashboard. So the Serverless Dashboard is a desktop application, kind of like a companion app for the CLI. It's not meant to be a replacement of the CLI. It is meant to be a little bit more user-friendly for newer folks, but it's also meant to basically put a GUI on top of the different things you're doing. And let me show you guys a quick demo. Can you see this, Islam?
Yep. Yeah, I can see.
Cool. So the dashboard, you basically right now, there's a couple different things you can do with it. You can import your existing projects or create new projects based off a couple of different templates. We're actually going to be adding in a bunch of our other examples in here, so you can quickly spin up a service and start working with it. But some of the, let's go into one of my projects here. So pretty bare bones right now, but it basically gives you a user interface to deploy functions, check logs, directly open code in your editor of choice. What else do we got here? Whoops.
One pretty cool thing to note is that you can actually see all the commands on the right side here, everything that's happening in the background. So it's sort of like a way to help user get familiar with the CLI, while at the same time having a better experience. And with time, they could actually switch to the CLI if they feel more comfortable. It's pretty nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and yeah, that's another piece, like where it's an educational piece as well for people onboarding with the CLI too. So, what else? So you can switch your regions. You can do a bunch of stuff in here right now. Deploy your service or remove it from the AWS cloud. I'll go ahead and invoke a log of this. Oh, there we go, connecting. So this is going to pull me back all the logs of, and the design is still very much in flux. And this is also, if you do have ideas or feature requests on what you'd like to see in the desktop application, there's this little handy feedback and feature request guy down here. So definitely feel free to shout out, let me know what you're interested in. The other thing that you can do right now, which is kind of a hidden feature, is like click and actually edit values. So if I wanted to change this redirect to a post method instead of a get, I can do that, and that'll actually go and update my serverless.yaml. Yeah, so that's kind of like management right now, listing out all your projects. The other kind of feature that I spent a good amount of time on was a way to manage all of your AWS profiles. So if you go into the settings pane, you can actually add or remove different profiles. And I'm not going to open these right now because they're live credentials. Basically, yeah, you can add a new profile and delete profiles, etc. So just a quick, easy way to do that without having to go edit the credentials file yourself. That's also, yeah, cool. So that's that. Some other announcements we have are the, whoops.
Oh, I love that.
That's tripping me out. Okay, so serverless, yeah, so we got the Serverless Examples repo. So that's over on serverless, github.com/serverless/examples. You can see here we have a bunch of examples that we're building out. Environment variables, encrypted environment variables, how to set up a custom authorizer using like Auth0. This is one that I made that's near and dear to my heart. Yeah, it's basically like a fully working demo where you can do protected API calls. Tons of them. So those are ones that like we're building, and if you do want to contribute different examples that you might have made, by all means submit a pull request, and we'll accept it with open arms. We also have community examples. So there's so many amazing projects out there in GitHub that are using serverless that I've been basically spending a bunch of time collecting those, adding those to the community -examples file, but that gets added to the README. This will also be featured in the main serverless README. I think it's actually there right now. Let's go to that. I think I reformatted that table too. Here we go. Yeah, so we got plugins and yeah, example projects. So if you do want to get featured, yeah, submit your project. And if you're curious about how I'm finding these, just go to if you search for .serverless in GitHub, you can find a bunch of different projects out there. The .serverless. Because this is basically people get ignoring our hidden directory.
Oh.
Yeah,
a good one.
Yeah, there's a bunch, and I guess I'm just searching in serverless right now. But if you .serverless, yeah, so many different examples out there. Some are really complex and interesting. That was one of the announcements. The other one is the serverless plugins repository. So we're making a conscious effort to basically collect all of the different serverless plugins for version 1+. in this plugins repository. And this is both, plugins that we're building and community-driven plugins. But if you do know of a plugin and again want to get it in here, just go ahead and submit a PR or tweet at me at David Wells, and we can add it in there. I spent a lot of time formatting this table to look pretty. But
it looks awesome though. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, this is automatically generated from the JSON file. So yeah, if you are submitting a plugin, just add a new JSON object, and it'll automatically get added to the README. And where we're going with this is, we're gonna basically start surfacing this stuff in the CLI, as well as you can imagine in the dashboard, a section where you could basically browse this repository of serverless services and serverless plugins. So I'm really stoked about that because one of the biggest challenges for me ramping up with the framework was finding all the different plugins out there. They're in a lot of different places, so we're making that effort to centralize them. Cool. Yeah, and what other? We have a webinar coming up with Cloud Academy Monday, December 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's going to be Austin, our CEO, and some of the fine folks over at Cloud Academy. Let's check that out. What are they talking about? They're talking about service. All the new, so they're going to be doing an AWS recap as well. Austin was at reInvent. I didn't get to go. I had to stay home and feed the dog. But next year I'm going. Next year we're both going.
Yeah, I hope so.
Cool. And then the other thing I wanted to call out was that that AWS SAML integration thread on GitHub, which this is absolutely where we want the community's feedback on what their thoughts are, whether or not they're thinking about integrating with it, etc. But
yeah, I know we would love generally to hear all our users' feedback about SAM, what their experience is like, and what they like about it, and what they like to see most in the framework when we support SAM in general. I'd love to hear that.
Right. Yeah. So cool. That's really it. I know this is called Serverless Office Hours. It hasn't been an hour yet, so I don't know. Should we sing songs or something for 12 minutes?
Well, it's not an hour yet, and it's not really an office either.
That is true. Let's see if there are any other questions. Okay. We do have one question in the chat again from Dan. OCD wants to know, why is the logo on your shirt backwards? Am I sitting in front of a mirror? Yes. No, I guess it might be my camera.
Really? Wow.
You see it backwards, Islam?
I do see it backward, but I'm not really an OCD mind, I guess. I never noticed it before.
Yeah. Wow. It's so when I look into a mirror, I see serverless spelled correctly. I don't know. Good question, Dan. Let's see if there's any other. Nope, doesn't look like it. So if you guys do have any questions, we're going to be doing these more regularly because they're pretty fun to chit-chat about all things serverless. Feel free to drop us a line on Twitter with the hashtag #AskServerless. Or drop us a line in the forums, or I don't know, shout it from the rooftops. Maybe we'll hear you. But Twitter is probably the best way to ask us a question that we can cover. And if you have any feedback or suggestions on how we do these office hours to make them more interesting to you guys, the community, please feel free to reach out and let us know.
Yes, please, feedback.
Feedback is always welcome. Always welcome. One of the things I kind of want to do is start featuring some people from the community. So it'd be interesting to pull in some of the experts out there and get some of their thoughts on where everything is going.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess, yeah, that wraps it up. We'll end with this inception.
Wow. Dive in.
Onward. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for joining me, Islam.
All right, perfect.
Always a pleasure. Get some sleep. I know it's late over there.
Yeah, well, I'm used to it.
Yeah. And cool. We will catch you guys next time.
Cool.
All right, later.
All right. Bye-bye.